Okay, so in the last video I was saying something was just not feeling right. I could just feel it in my spirit. I'm a very intuitive person. I trust my gut. Yeah, something was just kind of like, that's weird. Like, why is he acting like this? Like, I know I don't like totally know this guy, but this definitely is not like at all in alignment with what he showed me for over a month and everybody else, in California. It was just kind of weird. So I talked about my breakdown breakthrough in previous videos. And so I thought it was just like a culture shock thing, even though I hadn't even really experienced the culture yet, because where I'm staying, it's like I'm staying kind of like within a mall. I know it sounds weird. It's like these apartment complexes are all around, and then it's like this big mall, like right in the middle, almost like a Mall of America or something, and then like all these condos, different condos that are around it. So it's like a little city. Very convenient. I mean, I can walk everywhere and get anything. Dry cleaning, yoga, dentists, stores, shopping malls, shopping center, electronics. Everything is here, you name it. So I'm very thankful for that. So anyway, like I said, I ended up calling Kimi. I didn't want to worry my family, but I was just like calling my best friend, and I was just like, oh my God, like, I don't know, like I'm just like freaking out. Like something just like does not feel right. And so she's like, okay, just calm down. Maybe it's just like a little jet lag. And it was too. I mean, I was definitely experiencing jet lag. And jet lag can, be really tough and affect people different ways, emotionally and everything. So everyone I talked to, like I knew a few like acquaintances who were on the ground, and they were just like, just get some rest. Let it all go. Just kind of get into the energy of the place. And, I promise you, like, it's jet lag. You'll be feeling better. So I'm like, you're right. I lay down on the couch, a little blanket over me, and just go to sleep. I put some, like, soothing angel music on, and I just, like, go to bed, okay? Laying on the couch. I remember, though, SKB was supposed to come by to take me to go get a beer. So I text messaged him because he gave me a cell phone that I could, use temporarily. And I text messaged him, and I was like, okay, I need some rest. It was about maybe like 7 o'clock. I need some rest. Thank you for the reflexology. I really appreciate it. We'll have to do the beer another day. So I go to sleep. I think I probably slept about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Then I hear like, ding, 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 and I'm like, what? Like, what is this? Like, I didn't know, like, what was happening, okay? It was the doorbell. It sounded so crazy. So I get up, okay? I mean, I had like half my hair braided, half, down and whatever. I had like my little like pajama top on, so I'm like grabbing a scarf, just trying to, cover up my shoulders here because that's what you do. Anyway, I look, who's at my door but SKB? I'm like, oh, he must not have gotten the text message I sent over an hour and a half ago saying I couldn't go for the beer. At this point, it's about 8:45 p.m. So I say, I was like, I was so tired or whatever, and I was just like, hey, yeah, I can't go for the beer. Can I just see you tomorrow or whatever? And he's like, that's fine. But I need your passport for the visa processing. Okay, totally normal, because you have to have like, get a business or work visa or whatever kind of visa you need or whatever. And, usually there's an agent that you work with that will do the processing and work with immigration, to help you get your visa. So that's not strange. It's not weird, or anything. And, sometimes you just can't have a copy. They want your actual visa. And even like when in the United States, like if you're trying to go somewhere, sometimes you have to mail your visa to an agent. And then, they give it back to you and everything. So I was like, oh, yeah, no problem. So, grab my visa, give it to him. Again, I'm like, oh, okay, all right, see you tomorrow. And then he's like, oh, did you bring your original degrees? He asked me to bring my original law degree and my original college degree. I thought it was a tiny bit weird, but again, obviously anyone can maybe like go to Kinko's and doctor up and, you know, make up a certification or whatever. So I'm like, okay, you know, that makes sense, you know. And I mean, like, again, I did talk to people, researched it online, you know, people were like, yeah, sometimes you got to bring your originals, you know, show it to immigration, and then maybe they make a copy, and, you know, and then you can take your originals and everything. Give him my originals, because I noticed he was very pressed about me bringing these originals, even though I'd already scanned him copies of my degrees in the States. So I'm like, okay, you know, I was like, when can I expect to get my degrees back? He's like, you didn't bring copies? And I'm like, yeah, do you want the copies? I was like, yeah, I got Xerox copies. You know, you want to take like those, and then I'll, you know, keep the originals? And he's like, I don't know if you're going to get your originals back. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not going to get my originals back? Like, since, like, what? Like, that's crazy. You never said that, you know? And even if that was the case, at least I could have, like, reordered. I mean, even if I wasn't, like, married to the paper. You know, my bachelor's of science in journalism and my law degree, you know, is up here and everything. So, I mean, obviously they're still important, and they're important to my family and everything, too. They, you know, have them framed and hanging up. But at least I could have ordered, like a very, like, a certified copy or something from the universities in place or something of the original. Yeah, so again, 22 hours of traveling, everyone. Hardly any sleep at this point. You know, I'm going on like 36 hours of you know, no real, like, sleep. So then he was like, well, I got to ask the agent. So again, at that point, I'm just kind of like, well, like, whatever. Like, if you're going to take the originals, just take the originals. You know, I can always just get a copy from the school. You know, like, you know, just for future. So then he says, well, what are you going to do about next year? Like, how are you going to get your originals if you're, like, applying, you know, reapplying for your visa next year? I'm like, next year? Like, again, if you notice the pattern, it's like very concerned about his whole demonstration or whatever. Not concerned about me and how, like, I might not have my original degrees anymore. I could not even, like I said, I couldn't even think. My head was so fuzzy. So he left and was like, well, I'll talk to the agent and, you know, I'll see what they say. Fine. Then he turns around and says, oh, by the way, you're going to have your first class on Sunday. And these students are very, very smart. They score very high in the SAT. So I hope you're prepared. And then he, like, walks off. Okay, number one, he told me I would have like a month, maybe even 2 months, to just kind of shadow teachers, learn the curriculum, you know, help teach some classes. Now you're talking about I'm going to be teaching in 4 days. So again, it's like all this pressure, and it's jet lag, and it's this emotional roller coaster. So then I'm like, again, breaking down. So I reach out to a very respected person who has a lot of experience teaching and overseas and everything else. Talk to this person. And, you know, they actually know this guy. And they were just kind of like, whoa, that sounds kind of like a nightmare. I really didn't want to call it a nightmare quite yet at that time. But it was. It was like the beginning of a nightmare, okay? So anyway, this person talked me through everything. They gave me some, like, supportive numbers and websites to go to. And they were like, yeah, that's totally weird. Like, you should not be teaching a few days after you arrive, especially if that wasn't what you guys agreed on. And then they're like, well, maybe, you know, talk to him and, you know, see what he says. So I ended up talking to him the next day. I mentioned that in a previous video, like the breakdown breakthrough video. And I was like a wreck. And like I said, I mean, sure, I've dealt with, like, culture shock before, different places. But I mean, I'm a very seasoned traveler. I'm very mutable, you know, when it comes to being in different environments and cultures. I'm not afraid to travel or be alone, you know, by myself internationally. So, and like I said, I hadn't even really interacted with the culture. So I didn't even know, like, what I was experiencing. So I talked to him the next day, and he's like, oh, you know, I'm sorry. I totally understand. No pressure. There's nothing you should be worrying about. And, you know, he shared stories with me about when he, you know, came to a new country and how he didn't know anyone, and how these classes that I'm going to be teaching, they're just introductory classes for me to introduce myself to the students. And, you know, all of that, get my feet wet. And I was totally open to that because it's like I came here for a reason, and it's like I didn't want to just be like sitting around. Like, the sooner I could get to know the students and just feel more comfortable in the school, the better it would be. Lies, all lies, everybody.